father leaves out. Is aber nicht mevayer an Inyan was man darf verstehen. He doesn't explain a matter that we need to understand in the drasha from Rabbi Yitzchak, in the drasha, in the learning, the teaching of Rabbi Yitzchak, hyped on, he begins, Rabbi Yitzchak Pasach, Rabbi Yitzchak began Ivdus Hashem b'yira, it says, serve Hashem with awe. B'chsiv Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, it says, serve Hashem with joy. And the Lechura, seemingly, Meretoch v'eng avodas hayira, we're speaking over here about the avodah of awe of Hashem, is was for Hashayches hat der meaning from Simcha. What connection is there, the idea of joy, when we're talking about awe? This is, in other words, the Zohar brings these two psukim, Rabbi Yitzchak brings these two psukim, but the Rebbe's father does not address how do these things work together. How can you have serving Hashem with awe and serving Hashem out of joy? Va'adrab, just the opposite. That in Simcha, Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, the idea of joy, that you serve Hashem with joy, is l'chura astirat to them in hayira, Ivdus Hashem b'yira, seemingly a contradiction to what it says, serve Hashem with awe. It's wie stimmen the beide Sachen zusammen, and how both of these things fit together, wie bringt us in Zohar Gufel, like he brings it in the Zohar itself, that both of them are valid and true and so on. Noch mehr, even more so. Lost the document. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you're doing stuff on the phone. Okay. Nachmer, he says, even more so the difficulty is. Der Pasuk, Ivdus Hashem b'yiram, is Messiah v'gilu berada. At the conclusion of that Pasuk, it says, and they shall rejoice with trembling. Was thus meant as Simcha Nistora. This is referring to a concealed joy. Kimevur bekam mekaymis, like it's explained in many places, as zusammen mit ra'ada, mit yira, along with the trembling, which indicates awe and fear, can sein mer nit vigila. All it could be is just a level of gila, which gila is indicates as simcha nistara, a concealed joy. Kann man doch nicht verantworten die Shaila now. We can't answer the above-mentioned question. Wie stimmt Ivdus Hashem b'simcha mit Ivdus Hashem b'yira? How does it fit together? Serve Hashem with joy and serve Hashem with fear. And we'll answer as Ivdus Hashem b'simcha ret v'eng as simcha nistara. Serving Hashem with joy is referring to a concealed joy. B'meila kann das sein zusammen mit yira. Therefore, it could be along with yira. So the Rebbe says we can't answer that. Warum das meint doch Vigilu Berada? That's when it says Vigilu Berada. The word Gila indicates that the joy is concealed. Musman sagen, we have to say as Ivdus Hashem b'simcha meint as simcha gluya. When it says serve Hashem with joy, it means a revealed joy. Is wie stimmt das mit Ivdus Hashem b'yira? How does it fit in with Ivdus Hashem with awe? Was for Hashayches? Hat Simcha Gluya da in Zohar, wo redt wegen Ivdus Hashem b'yira v'gilu berada. What's it have to do? How does he speak about in the Zohar, where he's talking about serving Hashem with awe? And then he all of a sudden brings in the pasuk, Ivdus Hashem b'simcha. That's the questions that he poses. Now we'll go to the next page, and we'll skip over to Ois Mem. Der Bier, that's the third paragraph on the page. Der Bier in the Zohar from Parsha Seinu, the explanation on the Zohar of our Parsha, because the Rebbe went on to other topics, explaining Rashi and so on. Was der Tat is nicht mevayer in seine Oros from Zohar. These questions that the Rebbe's father does not explain in his notes on the Zohar. Ubahagdim, this is by first prefacing was is dorten yemevayer. The things that the Rebbe's father does explain. As Mevayer, he explains wie der Montag früher, like it was mentioned previously, as the drei Pirushim in Zohar of Ivdos Hashem B'Yira, the three explanations in the Zohar that serve Hashem with awe, the Pirush from Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Abba, and Rabbi Lazar, that the explanations of having to do with Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Abba, and Rabbi Lazar, let's skip over to the last line of this paragraph. Und jeder einer von den drei Rettleuten b'chnasihu. Each one of these three, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Abba, and Rabbi Lazar, was talking about his own level. Danach is mamshich in the Ma'ara. Then he continues in this note, und is mevayer the shayches pratis from Rabbi Yitzchak, and explains the individual connection of Rabbi Yitzchak. Der erste man der Omer in the Zohar was sagt Pirish of Ivdos Hashem B'Yira. He's the first one of the three in the Zohar that explains the meaning of the pasuk serve Hashem with awe. Mit Ivdu Hashem B'Yira, what does he explain about the connection between Rabbi Yitzchak with the idea of serving Hashem with fear and awe? As Rabbi Yitzchak is Bechinas Gvura. The level of Rabbi Yitzchak is the level of severity, the sphere of Gvura. As a Yitzchak Harishon, like the first Yitzchak, Yitzchak Avinu, Yitzchak our forefather. And there is Bechinas Yira V'Fachad. He's in a level of awe and fear. Via state Benegetz Yitzchak Harishon, like it says concerning the first Yitzchak, Upachad Yitzchak. Yaakov said, the fear of Yitzchak was upon me and to me. In the Reif kann man noch zugeben. So the Rebbe says, we could add to what the Rebbe's father connects Yitzchak with the idea of severity, as gefind as leides Yitzchak. We find concerning the birth of Yitzchak, and the introduction, the preface, what preceded his birth, is given verbunden mit dem Inyan von Gvuras Nisyonis, was connected with the idea of severity and challenges. Anheibendig von dem Nisoyim mit am Melech. Beginning with the test and the challenge that Sarah was taken to Avimelech. Und danach sagen wir kamen Yonim. Then there were other multiple things. Bis zu the Maisa mit Hagar, till the story with Hagar, that she was saying about how she's better than Sarah because Hagar had a child with Avram and Sarah didn't. Bis zu dem Nisayin verbunden mit dem Etzeminin von Leides Yitzchak, until the actual challenge involving the birth of Yitzchak. The Besur, as Yitzchak is geboren werden, the news that Yitzchak will be born is given when Avram is given ben Mea Shana. It was given when Avram was already in his 100th year, or Sarah bas Tishrim Shana, and Sarah was in her 90th year. Sie seien damals given Zekanim born by Yomim. They're already very old people. Bis as Chadli is Sarah Eich Kanashim, till Sarah did not have her period, etc. Sie ist nicht gewesen Shaykh zu haben demot Kinder al pitava. It was not possible by the rules and laws of nature for her to have children. Top of the next page. Bis noch mehr, even more so, as when Sarah gehört the besura sie wird haben Mazun. When Sarah heard the news that she would have a child, a son, is vatitzchak Sarah bekir b'lein mar acher b'leisig and oisli in Edna v'adoini zaken. Sarah laughed within herself, and although she couldn't believe it, it was something that she could not accept, that after my old age, I'm going to have now a skin of youth, and my master is old. Was der fun gufe was der Vatitzchak goimer is given nor by Sarah and not by Avram. The fact that only Sarah found this amazing and shocking, and she laughed about it, and not by Avram, is Aichachav to Nisayin Shabbat. This shows that it was a test that Sarah wasn't really capable to withstand it. Was calls as Madgish related Yitzchak die verbunden mit Gvuras Nisyonis. All of this emphasizes how the birth of Yitzchak was connected with severity and challenges. Was das geht noch mehr zu verstehen, the Shayches von Yitzchak zu Bechinas Gvuras. This gives even more a association to be able to understand the connection with Yitzchak and the idea of all the severities that he was born. Und danach, after the Rebbe's father mentioned about Yitzchak's connection with severity in general, and the Rebbe elaborated upon it now, is mamshach to mevayer. Zayin Da'ari continues to explain in his note. The Rebbe's father continues to explain in his note, as das Rabbi Yitzchok bringt noch. The fact that Rabbi Yitzchok afterwards brings noch dem was bringt the pasuk Ivdus Hashem b'yira, after bringing the pasuk serve Hashem with awe. Then pasuk Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, the pasuk serve Hashem with joy, is oich shayach to b'chinasoi. The Rebbe's father says that even the joy pasuk also has to do with the level of Yitzchak, ki Yitzchak u'maloshin tzchok, because Yitzchak is from the word laughter. The hainu simcha, that means joy. Like it says that Hashem made it joyous for me, a laughter for me, and so on. Was adkan, the Rebbe says, up till here is was is mevayer da arim in the get the same psukim Rabbi Yitzchak bringt, is what the Rebbe's father explains in the note about the two psukim that Rabbi Yitzchak brought, Ivdu Hashem b'yira and Ivdu Hashem b'simcha, that serve Hashem with awe, serve Hashem with joy. Both of them have to do with Yitzchak, which fits in very well with Rabbi Yitzchak, the one who actually said this point in the Zohar. We still need to understand that this he doesn't bring down in the Ha'ara, like we also mentioned this earlier. The proof that he brings in the Ha'ara, and the fact that Yitzchak brings both psukim, Ivdus Hashem b'yira, serve Hashem with awe, Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy, as by Yitzchak Harishon, by the first Yitzchak, was das is b'chinasi for Rabbi Yitzchak, that is also the level of Rabbi Yitzchak, the one who said this in the Zohar. Sein Gewinn beide inyanim. We see from their events that they had both things. Yira upachad Yitzchak and Simcha tzchok asel elikim. We find also the idea of the fear of Yitzchak and joy, like it says that Hashem made it laughter for me. Is blois arayas das izazoi. All we know from these psukim that the Rebbe's father brings is that this is the way it was. Aber das geht aber nicht kein Biur, wie es kann sein als Azach. It doesn't give us an explanation how it's possible to be such a thing. Zwei Hafochim zusammen, two opposites together, Yira and Simcha, awe and joy, wie gefragt früher, like we asked earlier. Und dazu, two paragraphs in the bottom, I feel like man hat as bor, wie das kann das sein, even if we have an explanation how this could be, is aber nicht da der Art und Zohar zu reden wegen dem Inyan Simcha. This is not the topic over here in Zohar to speak about the Simcha. This is not the topic under discussion there in the Zohar. Rabbi Yitzchak read da in Zohar wegen Inyan HaYira. Rabbi Yitzchak is speaking about the idea of awe, because like we said, there's a whole bunch of Tanoim. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Lazar, they're all talking about awe. So why did Rabbi Yitzchak all of a sudden insert the idea of joy? So was bringt the meaning for Ivdus Hashem Simcha? That's not the topic under the discussion. Why does he bring this in at all about serve Hashem with joy? Was hat es da Farashayches? I feel like das is bechinat shel Rabbi Yitzchak. Even if this is the level of Rabbi Yitzchak, what's the connection with what's going on in the topic under discussion in the Zohar? And Afal Piaz Rabbi Yitzchak is mefarish. The Shaykhs from Ivdus Hashem b'simcha to Ivdus Hashem b'yira, even though Rabbi Yitzchak does explain the connection between the two topics, as fayeder inyan von Ava and Simcha mu zayin hayira kedemisloy. That's what Rabbi Yitzchak explains over there in the Zohar. Prior to any level of love and joy, it needs to be preceded by yira. This is a little bit similar to what we had recently in Tanya Chitas, that before you could reach the level of Ava B'Tanugim, the love of delight, you need to have an awe beforehand, because Dark Yishalish L'Chazer Acharisha, Ish is the level of love, Ish is the level of fear, Ish Yiras Hashem, and the man, the love, goes searching for a woman. So the first has to be the woman available, first has to be the Yira, and then there can be the Ava. Hot das aber Ashayches to dem Inyan HaSimcha und nicht zu der Inyan HaYira. Even though that is true, but it only has a connection to the idea of joy and not the topic of Yira. It's not about, it doesn't help us understand Yira. It helps us understand that when you're dealing with joy, you can't reach joy without Yira. Wegen was da es redt sich da. The topic again under the discussion on the Zohar, the beginning of our parsha, is the topic of awe, not the topic of joy. Is for was bringt us Rabbi Yitzchak? So why does Rabbi Yitzchak bring it over here? Again, if you don't understand all the details of his questions, it's not that important over here. Mem Aleph, second paragraph on the page, is the Bir B'chol Zed explanation, and all of this is mit bringen the meaning von Ivdus Hashem besimcha. Noch der Reifes aret wegen Ivdus Hashem b'yira, by bringing the idea that you should serve Hashem with joy. After saying that you have to serve Hashem with awe, kommt Rabbi Yitzchak b'varn. So Rabbi Yitzchak comes to forewarn Masber sein, dem Eufen wie es darf sein Yira, to explain in what type of manner there has to be the awe. Bechinosai, which awe is the level of Rabbi Yitzchak, like we said. As the avoida von Yira darf sein naza Eufen, as es soll der noch bringen zu Simcha. This is a crucial part of the service of awe. Awe must be in such a way that it's not a standalone. It has to have a purpose and a goal. And the purpose and the goal is to reach a state of joy. Das heißt, this means, as das soll nicht sein, bloß ein Yira, Pachat, und damit bleiben. It doesn't just mean you should have awe and fear and just remain with that. Nor die Yira darf l'chatchila sein an Eufen, as soll noch bringen to Simcha. The awe has to be in such a way that afterwards it brings to joy. Was dafke demot is a Yira kedeboy, then it's an appropriate type of awe. Val derech wie es mevor in the meaning von Acharei, and similar to what's explained concerning after the passing of the two sons of Aaron, der Pasuk welcher the Zohar stellt sich da. This is the Pasuk which the Zohar is explaining over here. As by Nadav Avihu, it gefällt dem Inyan von Nichnas B'Shalom v'Yatzu B'Shalom. Nadav Avihu, they were missing the idea that before you go into the holiest type of levels and you elevate and you have this great yearning for Hashem, they were missing the appropriate attitude. They didn't go in a peaceful manner, and that's why they weren't able to leave in a manner called peace. So to be able to be that they're going out in peace, darf dem nicht l'chatchila sein an Eufen, was noch bringen zu Yatzu b'Shalom. So the way one goes into this innermost chambers of the divine has to be in such a way that you initially go in a peaceful manner, meaning in a way that you will reconcile your spirituality with the world. And if the entering to the most highest spiritual realms is not in such a type of way that his aim is to come down and bring it into the material world, as das wird danach bringen zu Yatzu v'Shalom, that it should be, I have my eye on the goal, that it should bring about the coming out in peace. Bitachon it's ein Yatzu v'Shalom. If I don't have this planned out in advance, so then they don't come out in peace. They remain lamaila. So the Rebbe says that same issue, what was the problem with Nadav Avihu, is what Rabbi Yitzchak is trying to forewarn and teach us. So too in our topic, Rabbi Yitzchak kommt to sagen. Rabbi Yitzchak comes here to say, as avoidus hayira darf l'chatchila sein an Eufen, was soll der noch bringen to Simcha. How are we supposed to do the avoid of awe and fear? It has to be with a goal in mind. It has to be with the purpose that it has to bring me to joy. Und if the year is nicht an Eufen, if the awe is not in such a way that I have the aim to bring me to joy, there's a lot of people, they're charedim. Charedim is the word charada, trembling, fear. And that's all they're about. Fear, 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 fear. If the fear is not for the purpose of bringing to joy, that fell in avoida kedeboy. So the appropriate avoida will be lacking. Was der Far therefore, when Rabbi Yitzchak redt wegen avoidas hayira dafke, specifically when Rabbi Yitzchak is speaking about the avoida of awe, bringt gleich wegen dem Inyan HaSimcha, Chotz da redt sich nicht wegen Simcha. He immediately brings a topic of joy. Even though over here, the topic in the Zohar that's under discussion is not the topic of joy, but it's a topic of awe. Warum gleich wenn man halt by avoidas hayira immediately, as soon as we're already at the stage of dealing with awe, We need to know where this awe is supposed to lead us. Is neger zu wissen, as the avodas hayira is b'shleimus dafke. It's important. It's necessary to know that the avodah of awe is complete. Dafke, wenn das an Eufen was wird noch bringen to Simcha, only when it's in such a manner that will bring afterwards to joy. Das heißt, this means in andere Wörter, putting it in other words, as the pnimis from Yira Mitis is the inner component of true awe, is der Inyan HaSimcha, is the idea of joy. Wie kann Taka sein, as Yira soll sein an Eufen? How could it really be that Yira should be in such a way as das soll danach bringen zu Simcha, that it should afterwards bring to a state of joy, b'shas as Yira and Simcha, sein Hofrim Kanal, when awe and joy are two opposites, like we said before, is the Bir Bezeh. The explanation on this is, al derech wie gerat frier. Like we spoke earlier, the Rebbe spoke earlier in this Farbrengen, beneged for the avodah from Bedam Asher Basaf, concerning the avodah of the blood that was on the lintel, as in limit ha-Torah, the frier sein dem inen ha-bittel v'shiflus. When it comes to Torah study, it needs to be preceded by bittul. It needs to be a sublimation. A person needs to feel himself low, and the opposite of arrogance. I need to have that my soul should be like dust before everyone. Was dust is the inyan hayira. This is the same idea of awe. It's bittul. Aber the kavon is not as the yid soll bleiben chas v'sholom v'an eskuf an the dresses. The importance is not that he should remain like a threshold which everybody steps on. Skip the brackets to the next line. Soll bleiben by the min ha-bittel. The point is not to remain with the bittel. Nor das darf noch bringen zu psach liebe b'sor sachel. It has to bring to the second half of the pasuk. After it says, when nafshi ka'afar l'kol tiyah, it has to bring to open my heart to your Torah. The bittel is only a means to be able to get to true Torah study. Was das is nicht der min ha-bittel. Torah is not just that it's not about bittul, but it's the opposite. Psach libi. The Orarim from Psichas Alev, the heart opens up. Biz as ein limit Torah of sein Neufen Falaf Foshala, to such a degree that his Torah study has to be in a way to increase in the Torah as Mechadish Chidushim. He comes up with new novel insights. It's not about putting himself down. But it's only was bechdei tzukum zu psach liebe b'sor secha, to be able to arrive at opening up my heart and your Torah. Darf sein die Agdam und Yisoid from Bittel v'Yira chulu. There has to be the introduction, the preface, the foundation of Bittel and Yira. So the same thing the Rebbe is going to talk about, the relationship between Yira and Simcha. 4 paragraphs on the top. Val derech says euch wenn geht zu der avodah von Yira and Simcha, so too concerning the avodah of awe and joy. Koidem called of sein the avodah von Yira Bittel. Initially, there has to be the avodah of awe and Bittel. Aber the kavana von der Yira or Bittel, but the intention of the awe and Bittel is not as der mizal der noch der mizal der bei bleiben, that we should remain with this. Nor as das soll der noch bringen zu avodas hasimcha, rather the Yira and Bittel is for the sake that it should bring me afterwards to the avodah of joy. Und bechdei as das soll azoi sein, how does one ensure that the Yira will not just remain Yira alone? How do I make sure that I will reach the correct direction, that I will actually use the Yira for joy? Darf die Yira melchatchila sein an Eufen, as das soll bringen zu Simcha. So initially, the way and my attitude towards the awe has to be with the plan, like nichnas b'shalom and yatz b'shalom. The plan has to be that this awe is to be able to bring me to joy. Das heißt, as gormel chatchila darf die Yira und Bittel b'pnimiyusa sein an ihm von Simcha. Already, initially, at the beginning, in the inner aspect of the awe and Bittel, it has to be the concept of joy. Then the Rebbe goes on to explain this, how this works in the spheres of Gvura and Chesed, that really even Gvura is really, Hashem's Gvura is only about kindness, and it's about goodness, and the same thing in Torah, the mitzvahs loisas, the negative commandments, comes from Hashem's gvura, and the positive commandments comes from Hashem chesed, but the entire Torah is called the Torah's chesed. And he explains, how is that so? Let's skip over on the next page to the fourth paragraph from the top. That it's known, the metaphor that my father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, gives for the necessity of the sur merah, of turning away from bad, has to be as a preface to the doing good. So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, as meshas mahot Michael orev mosik, when you have a tasty and sweet food, darf nem halten dafke nach klein noki, you have to keep it and store it and place it only in a clean vessel. If you don't place it in a clean vessel, it will also ruin the tasty and sweet food. Therefore, there has to be the avoid of turning away from bad, to make my vessel into a clean vessel. And following that I do good, reinlegen in the Michael Orev Mosik, to place in it a sweet and tasty food. Then the Rebbe speaks even more so about that Hashem has kavyochel 2 hands, and there's the idea of there's the 5 fingers of the right hand indicates 5 expressions of Hashem's kindness. The 5 fingers on the left hand, kavyochel of Hashem, indicates the 5 expressions of Hashem's severity. But really, we find that both Hashem's hands, according to Kabbalah, are called Yemin. It says Yemin Hashem Nedori Bakoyach, Yemin Hashem Tiratz Oyev, it says in Oz Yasher. In other words, by Hashem, everything is the right. Even the Gevura, even the severities, is about kindness and chesed. So let's skip over to the middle of the page, the next page, Mem Hey. Der Fun is euch verstandig, wie das is in avodas Adam. From this it's also understood in the service of a person. Es ist da avodah von Yira Gvura, und the avodah von Simcha Chesed. There's the avodah of awe, which is severity, and there's the avodah of joy, which is the level of kindness. Aber euch Yira is bamitis or pnimia Simcha, but also awe is truly so, and deep down inside of it's idea of joy. Und das kommt Rabbi Yitzchak bavaran da in Zohar. This is what Rabbi Yitzchak comes to forewarn and teach us here in the Zohar. Rabbi Yitzchak read wegen Bechinasa in Avodah. As we mentioned in the beginning, Rabbi Yitzchak is speaking about his level in Avodah. Was das ist Bechinas Yira, that's the level of awe. Wie sagt das Nan Hara Kanal, like the Rebbe's father says in his note on the Zohar, like we said earlier. The far dafür dabei gleich bavaran and an Inyan Ikri. Since he's talking about his avodah of Yira, he right away needs to take care and say, make sure the following thing. Be careful how you're doing the Yira. Was negei in avodas hayira, it matters to the way how we're doing the awe. As avodas hayira darf l'chatchila sein nan oifen, that the way how a person does his service out of fear and awe of Hashem, it has to be done in such a way as das soll bringen to Simcha, it should bring to joy. Warum bepnimiyusa is the Yira Simcha, because deep down inside the Yira is about joy. Und therefore, gleich nach dem, was Rabbi Yitzchak stellt sich auf den Pasuk, Ivdas Hashem b'Yira. Immediately after Rabbi Yitzchak dealing with the Pasuk, serve Hashem with awe, bringt den Pasuk Ivdas Hashem b'Simcha. Immediately he brings the Pasuk, serve Hashem with joy. B'chdei tzibavaron, to be able to forewarn as Ivdas Hashem b'Yira, that the Pasuk of serving Hashem with awe darf mechatchila sein in an oifen was all bringen to Ivdas Hashem b'Simcha. Has to be initially in such a way that it should bring to the idea of serve Hashem with joy. Und sich nicht mistapik mit dem, was steht, B'siyam HaKasa, Ivdas Hashem b'Yira v'gilu barada. He's not happy just with what it says at the end of the pasuk, Ivdas Hashem b'Yira, that says, rejoice with trembling. Why is that insufficient? Why does he have to bring the pasuk Ivdas Hashem b'Simcha? But the kavanah from Yira is because the purpose and intention of the awe is as also bring into Simcha Gluya, it should bring to a revealed joy. Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy. And nitnar simcha nistara, not only a concealed joy, which is v'gilu barada, which is the idea of rejoicing with trembling. So that's why Rabbi Yitzchak has to make sure to bring the pasuk Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, so we know how is our awe supposed to be done in such a way that the long-term plan of it that is to bring out an open and revealed joy. This is Marnit, the Rebbe says in the second paragraph. The only thing is, this is something that's time dependent. In other words, there's an order. First A, then B. Das heißt, as it's zwei psukim reden wegen zwei besonderes Manim. The two psukim of serve Hashem with awe and serve Hashem with joy is talking about two different times, two different stages. Frier is da der Ivdas Hashem beyira. First, there's the idea of serve Hashem out of awe. Und danach bringt the sum Ivdas Hashem besimcha. And then this brings to serve Hashem with joy. Was der Fahr sein, die zwei psukim nicht kein stille soll. Therefore, the two psukim are not contradictory one to another. Rabbi Yitzchak is mevayin the Zohar, that Rabbi Yitzchak, like Rabbi Yitzchak explains in the Zohar, that one actually is supposed to lead to the other, and one is not supposed to remain just with the Yira, but ultimately the avodah of Yira is supposed to lead to joy and not just Yira alone.